For more than a century, our obsession with ancient Egypt has been distorted by a profound preservation bias. Because monumental stone temples, soaring pyramids, and elite tombs were built in the hyper-arid desert, they survived the millennia in pristine condition. This created a false impressioneru, a tomb chapel mirage of a society uniquely obsessed with death and the afterlife. But what about the living? The mud brick cities, the chaotic market squares, and the domestic quarters of the ordinary people were built on the fertile floodplains of the Nile. Over thousands of years, they were buried under layers of dark alluvial silt or swept away by agricultural expansion, leaving the silent majority of Egypt completely invisible. Forget the pharaohs. What did daily life actually look like for the ordinary people of Egypt 3,300 years ago? By combining domestic archaeology, the chemical analysis of ancient bones, and thousands of informal scribbles left on discarded pottery flakes, modern scientists have bypassed the idealized paintings on tomb walls. They have successfully reconstructed an authentic, raw, and deeply human journey. This is a week along the Nile reconstructed lives of the silent majority who actually built the world of the pharaohs. Our journey begins at the northernmost gateway of Egypt, the maritime frontier, where the mouth of the Nile meets the Mediterranean Sea. Here, 7.5 kilometers off the modern shoreline, lies the ancient sunken port city of Thonis-Heracleion. For 2,000 years, historians were baffled by a geographical puzzle. Was Thonis a different city than the Greek port of Heracleion? In the year 2000, marine archaeologists pulled a black stone stele from the sediment. Erected in 380 BC under Pharaoh Nectanebo I, it solved the mystery in a single inscription. Thonis and Heracleion were the exact same citioru, the gatekeeper of Egypt's global trade. While ancient elite texts claimed that craft and trade were strictly adult male occupations, the ground itself tells a far more inclusive story. Archaeologists recently conducted a microscopic study of the terracotta figurines excavated from these sunken domestic quarters. By measuring the density and breadth of the finger grooves left in the wet clay during manufacturing, they captured the literal fingerprints of history. The results were a revelation. Craft production in Egypt was a highly integrated, family-run workshop model. Children were structurally integrated into the assembly lines, handling simple, high-volume tasks like pressing clay into open-faced molds. Women worked side by side with men, carrying out the highly skilled, intricate assembly of delicate statuettes, joining individually molded heads, limbs, and symbolic attributes. These clay figurines aren't just art. They are the reclaimed, unrecognized labor of Egyptian mothers and children. Traveling south to the apex of the Nile Delta, we encounter the monumental labor machine of Giza. For centuries, popular culture has insisted that the Great Pyramids were built by armies of enslaved foreigners, whipped into submission. Archaeology has demolished this myth. Excavations at Hayt el-Ghurab, the lost city of the pyramid builders, have proven that the pyramids were constructed by a highly organized, well-provisioned, state-sponsored conscripted workforce. This was a massive state-run company town. To maintain a rotating workforce of up to 20,000 people, the state established an unprecedented industrial supply chain. Zooarchaeologists have analyzed over 175,000 animal bone fragments discarded in the city's trash heaps. They discovered that these workers enjoyed a protein-rich, luxurious diet. An estimated 4,000 pounds of meat were slaughtered and distributed daily at Giza. Vast herds of cattle, sheep, and goats were raised in the rich pastures of the delta and driven across the desert edge to feed the builders. But this massive catering operation was strictly stratified. The overseers and skilled craftsmen, living in comfortable, spacious administrative houses, dined on high-quality cuts of prime beef. The general laborers, housed in long, dormitory-like gallery barracks, consumed primarily mutton, goat, and pork, supplemented by wild Nile fish, lentils, and barley. Their daily meals were washed down with starchy, sweet, low-alcohol emmer beer, baked and brewed on an industrial scale in facilities called the Pershiniru, the House of the Commissariat. The state treated these laborers not as disposable slaves, but as highly valued state assets. Scribes managed the workforce with bureaucratic precision, dividing them into competing gangs like the Friends of Khufu or the Drunkards of Menkaure, further subdivided into 10-man units called Because keeping this workforce healthy was an administrative priority, Giza housed a remarkably competent medical system. The skeletal remains from the workers' cemetery show that on-site doctors successfully set broken limbs with splints, leading to perfectly healed fractures. Even more astounding, radiographic analyses have revealed skeletons of workers who underwent successful, complex leg amputations and even complex brain surgery, surviving for years after the procedures. Moving south to the entrance of the Fayum Oasis, we encounter the Middle Kingdom town of Lahun, originally named Hotep Senwosret, meaning Senwosret is satisfied. Lahun is the ultimate physical representation of state-enforced social stratification. Unlike organic villages, this town was mathematically planned on a strict grid. A massive internal wall completely bisected the community. On the east, closest to the royal temple, stood colossal, multi-roomed mansions on the Taunayura's highest pointayura, the Acropolis. On the west, packed tightly together, were 220 tiny, uniform row houses. Here lived the manual laborers, low-level scribes, doorkeepers, and the temple singers and dancers. These small homes were crowded, dynamic spaces. Census papyri recovered from the town reveal the intimate struggles of families trying to survive within these rigid walls. We read of a soldier named Hori, who originally occupied a home with his wife and young son. At some point, his wife's mother, and 5 sisters joined the household, packing 9 people into a tiny 3-room footprint. Decades drifted by, and Hori's son, Sneferu, grew into manhood surrounded by a household of women, his mother, grandmother, and 3 aging aunts. Archaeological excavations show that families actively remodeled their homes, tearing down mud brick partitions or throwing up new walls to adjust to the constant shifting tide of extended family life. But the true physical price of ancient Egyptian ideology is written in the bones of the heretical capital of Amarna. Built by the pharaoh Akhenaten in under 2 decades, the tomb walls of the elites depict scenes of boundless agricultural abundance and tables overflowing with food offered to the sun disk. The Aten? The bioarchaeological reality of the non-elite cemetery, however, is a horror story. The skeletal remains of nearly 500 individuals excavated from the South Tombs Cemetery reveal a population physically broken by the state. Amarna's residents were the shortest ancient Egyptian population ever recorded, their growth severely stunted by chronic childhood anemia and nutritional deficiencies. The rapid, forced construction of the capital left devastating physical trauma on the bones of the survivors. Muscle insertion points on the bones, called entheses, developed massive, abnormal crests to cope with repetitive, agonizing loads. Among the adults analyzed, nearly 35% suffered from Schmorla urius nocinera, painful spinal disc herniations caused by heavy lifting. Over 20% had spinal compression fractures, and nearly half of the entire adult population suffered from advanced degenerative joint disease. To make matters worse, the isolated workmen's village at Amarna had no natural water source. Ordinary residents were forced to hike up to 5 kilometers to the Nile or deep wells, carrying massive clay vessels weighing up to 100 pounds across the blistering sand just to keep their families alive. Amarna was a biological vortex of stress, where the silent majority literally poured their blood, muscle, and bone into the desert sand to satisfy a king's religious vanity. Yet, even under the shadow of the pharaoh Hayura's absolute power, ordinary Egyptians carved out spaces of profound agency and resistance. A beautiful illustration of this is found on the west bank of Luxor in Deir el-Medina, known in ancient times as Set Ma'at, or the place of truth. Here lived the elite, highly literate craftsmen who carved and decorated the royal tombs in the Valley of the Kings. The rhythm of life here was governed by a strict 10-day week. The male artisans would leave the village to work on the royal tombs for 10 consecutive days, sleeping in temporary huts near the excavation sites. At the end of the shift, they returned home for a 2-day weekend. Because of this institutional cycle, for most of the year, Deir el-Medina was populated almost exclusively by women and children. While the rear of standard Egyptian homes was traditionally the female domain, the women of Deir el-Medina subverted this spatial hierarchy. They claimed the front room, parlora, traditionally the public male spasharu, as their own. They built enclosed, elevated platforms in these front rooms to manage the household economy. host active local trade, and receive guests, running the village with absolute authority while their husbands were away. These villagers left behind thousands of ostraka yiru discarded pottery and limestone flakes that served as the informal scratch pads of daily life. On them, they recorded a highly active, peer-to-peer barter economy based on the diben, a copper weight standard. Without coins, they traded sandals, beds, and baskets. A mason might build a roof extension for his neighbor in exchange for a jug of beer or a hand-painted protective amulet. But the most remarkable discoveries are the figured ostraka ancient satirical cartoons. These sketches depict a topsy-turvy world where animals mimic the elite monkeys ordering around bipedal cats and mice being waited on by feline servants. Far from low-art doodles, these parodies were a sophisticated, shared form of cultural critique and biting humor among the literate working class, mocking the rigid hierarchy of the pharaonic state. All of these scattered lives, from the delta ports to the southern frontiers, converged during the grand visual spectacles of the religious calendara Niru, none grander than the Festival of Opet. Once a year, during the high water season of the Nile inundation, the entire valley paused. The sacred barks of the gods were brought out from the dark, restricted sanctuaries of Karnak Temple. Surrounded by a chaotic sea of dancers, singers, and standard-bearers, the golden barges sailed south down the Nile toward Luxor Temple. At the riverbanks, the rigid social boundaries of Egypt temporarily dissolved. The common peasant, the physically battered quarryman, the soldier, and the merchant stood shoulder to shoulder with priests and nobility. The air was thick with the scent of burning incense, roasting oxen, and freshly baked honey cakes. For days, the state distributed thousands of loaves of bread and jars of beer, transforming the religious procession into a euphoric celebration of life, fertility, and cosmic renewal. In this moment of collective ecstasy, the heavy burdens of building a civilization were temporarily forgotten. When we look at the breathtaking monuments that line the Nile, we are taught to see only the names of the kings who commissioned them. But the true story of ancient Egypt is written in the bones of the silent majority. It is found in the healed fractures of the Giza stonecutters, the fingerprints left in the clay of delta workshops, and the satirical cartoons of the West Bank tomb builders. These were not faceless, disposable slaves, nor were they death-obsessed automatons. They were a resilient, deeply creative, and highly adaptive people who turned a harsh desert valley into a triumph of human organization. They did not just labor in the shadow of the pyramids. They built them, they lived, and they deserve to be remembered.
If you found this journey through the real lives of ancient Egypt's silent majority as fascinating as we did, there's so much more history waiting for you. Which ancient Egyptian mystery do you want us to reconstruct next? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell nearest so every lost voice from history finds its way to you.